ate noodles with no packet. Cereal with the
address
can,
the
bro.
American people. This follows an address from Prime Minister Albanese of Australia to his people, as well as Prime Minister Starmer to the British people. And in both speeches by Starmer and Albanese, they said to the people, we know that fuel prices, gas prices are going up, and we should expect more pain, but we will do as much as we can to ensure
Lies. Lies and bullshit. Man, politicians really know how to do double talk.
that your wallet is not too impacted. Donald Trump, in his address to the American people, basically said that this war will continue and America may start to bomb energy and oil infrastructure of Iran. Okay? So he's basically saying that we're winning this war and we will bomb them to the Stone Ages, which tells us he's actually not winning this war. So remember,
Classic example of the double talk.
this war in Iran, it's not ending. In fact, many people believe it's only starting to ramp up. So there are rumors that Donald Trump has already authorized the use of ground forces. And so we could see an invasion of Iran as early as this weekend.
If he's going to order ground troops, they're going to need more ground troops because the majority of the troops that are there, it's not enough. So they're going to need to do a draft. So all of you Americans, get ready to get drafted into this stupid war. All right? Is the American pride going to be there once the people come knocking on your door? Boom, 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 boom. It's time to go to war. It's time to go drop them bombs over there. What are you guys going to say? I'm telling you, the world we're living in right now is absolutely ridiculous.
Certainly, definitely this month, okay? But while America is fighting this war in Iran, this is the Secretary of War, Peter Hegseth, and he's announced that America will control all North America, okay? So basically, what he's saying is we will enforce the Monroe Doctrine in North America. So it sounds very strange to people in that Donald Trump is fighting this war in Iran that's not really winnable. At the same time, he is being aggressive in North America. He's seeking fights with Canada, with Denmark over Greenland, with Colombia, with Mexico, with Cuba. In fact, he's embargoing Cuba right now, and people expect possibly an invasion of Cuba very soon. So people just think that Donald Trump is all over the place, and he's...
The crazy thing about Donald Trump is that, yes, everything seems like it's in some sort of reality TV show, but he lives his life as though it is one, and as though there are no consequences. Everything that he's doing currently at this time are all like things against national security, okay? They're crimes against national security. Anybody else would be in jail, bro. Anybody else.
Idiotic, okay? So this is Iran, and everyone says that a ground invasion of Iran would be stupid because it is much too large to invade. Right now, America has only about 50,000 troops in the Middle East, and the geography, the terrain, makes it very hard to control, okay? So you have these mountains, the Zagros Mountains, which allows for the Iranians to hide and conduct guerrilla warfare and use drone strikes and artillery strikes. And then you have the desert, which makes it very hard to cross, okay? So even if the Americans were to attack from here, from Iraq, they would have to face mountains. If they were attacked from Pakistan, from the east, they would have to face deserts, okay? And if they were to attack from the south, they would face all these mountains. And also you're far away from Tehran, which is...
Right, and because of the terrain and everything that is to the advantage of Iran, it makes it so that Iran will have to do not only guerrilla warfare, they can do guerrilla warfare really well in that sort of terrain and sort of ambush and take out the Americans as swiftly as the Vietnamese did as well, because the Vietnamese had the jungles and that was where they were able to do their guerrilla warfare, right? So this is the fighting style of Iran that they are really hoping for, is this asymmetrical warfare that they have to go through against the Americans. And the Americans, I don't think, are strong enough, have enough manpower or enough money to keep the resources going for this war, bro. So, I mean, Trump really likes to just talk and say anything.
Ultimately, your objective, okay? So there's lots of conversations about what the Americans are trying to do. Right now, the consensus seems to be the Americans first want to control the Strait of Hormuz in order to elevate the strain on the global economy, okay? But as you can see from this map, first of all, the strait, it's not very wide, and it's very close to the Iranian coastline in the mountains, so it's easy to attack from. And there are these, and then the Iranians can put mines all around the strait as well. So what everyone tells us is that an invasion of Iran would just be idiotic. At the same time, the Americans need to free up the Strait of Hormuz and allow...
Yeah, but first of all, the Americans lost the Strait of Hormuz, so shout out to them. Also, yeah, when it comes down to this, I'm not sure. I don't think the Americans really thought this through. But also, when it comes to hubris, when your decisions are clouded by ego, it's very difficult to make any wise choice truly.
For maritime navigation in order to stabilize the global economy. Okay? Already we're seeing lots of signs that America is preparing for a long, long war. So there are already 50,000 troops in the Middle East, and a lot of them will be deployed against Iran. But also there's a letter from Leonard Anderson to reserves telling them we must get ready to deploy, fight, and win. Okay? So not only have they sent 50,000 troops to the Middle East, but they're preparing to call the reserves as well. Okay? So this seems as though America is preparing for total war. Poly market is a very interesting place to understand how global events will turn out. Okay? And so there are three indicators that in fact a war is coming, a ground invasion is coming. First of all, the pizza index is exploding. What does this mean? It means that in the Pentagon, when they're
I'm sure it's not related to food. I'm pretty sure.
preparing to launch a ground invasion, they need to work overtime. And so they call for pizza. Okay? And so pizza deliveries are going up. Gay bars
Oh, what? No. What kind of hidden, secret, sexy information does Jang have? What is this, Jang? What are you talking about? Pizza, actual real pizza? Not the Epstein Pizzagate nonsense, but real physical food? Bread and cheese and ham?
are empty. Okay, so when people are, don't have much to do, they go and, go on dates. The last is that people are making bets, large bets, that a ground invasion will happen. Okay, so these are people who have inside information, and so they go on Poly Market and make a bet that this will happen.
So wait, hold on. Why is he saying specifically the gay bars are empty?
Knowing it will happen. So this guy, that $200,000, that a ground invasion will happen. And if it turns out a ground invasion does happen, he will win over $1 million. Okay, so these are three very good indicators that a ground invasion has been approved and it will happen very, very soon. Donald Trump himself has said many, many things. Okay, so he said that, you know what, if we leave the Middle East, it's not a problem. We don't really care. Okay, and he also says that, hey, NATO, it's your responsibility to open the Strait of Hormuz because we told you so and because you need the oil. And of course, NATO is angry at Donald Trump because previously Donald Trump threatened to take over Greenland. Okay, so everyone thinks Donald Trump is a moron. He doesn't plan ahead because before this war in Iran, where he needs the help of NATO, he was pissing off NATO by threatening to take over Greenland. So Donald Trump is over the place. He's just a moron, right? Let's just assume, okay, that the ground invasion goes ahead. What will happen? Well, as I predicted before, if a ground invasion were to go ahead, first of all, America would lose this war because the ground invasion would fail. The Iranians are fully prepared for a ground invasion.
Oh, thank you for doubling down on my opinions, Jiang.
Second of all, if America loses this war, the American empire would die because we'd be forced out of the Middle East. They would lose the petrodollar and the US dollar as a global reserve currency. And the third thing is the global economy would collapse. So clearly, Donald Trump is the worst president in human history. And he's a complete buffoon, right?
Donald Trump doesn't understand what it really truly means to be, I guess, like run the world, right? He's more looking, everything is some sort of leverage point for himself, for his own personal brand, the Trump name. That's really what it's for. There's not really anything that he's doing that's like supposed to be like good for the long term. There's nothing he's doing in his term now where 8 years, 16 years from now, it's going to be like, oh yeah, he did really good change. No, dude, it's all narcissism.
Okay, but let's put our thinking caps on. Okay, let's use game theory and say, but what if, for some strange reason, Donald Trump wants to lose this war in Iran? What if he wants the American empire to collapse? What if Donald Trump wants to destroy the global economy? Then he'd be a genius, right? Right? He's a moron because he's going to destroy the American empire. But if he actually wants to destroy the American empire, then the man is the greatest American president ever, okay? Okay, so we're gonna have a fun class today, and we're gonna make the argument that in fact, Donald Trump is a genius. That in fact, all this chaos is purposeful. That there's actually a plan behind all.
The best time to make money is during chaos. So maybe, like he said, maybe he is a genius. Maybe he's gonna buy up a bunch of real estate, buy up a bunch of different things now that the prices are all shot to shit.
This, okay? That's the argument I want to make to you today. Okay, so what is the plan? What is going on here? All right, so first thing to notice is that the world gets 20%, okay? 20% of its oil from the Middle East, okay? Primarily going to East Asia. So India gets about 6% of its oil from the Middle East, Japan gets 75% of its oil from the Middle East. So East Asia is heavily dependent on Middle East oil, okay? But as you can see, it also goes to Europe as well, and then also to the United States, right? So the world is dependent on the GCC oil. If this war continues, used, if ground forces are used, then all the oil from the Middle East collapses. And JP Morgan has come out and said that by mid-April, the world will run out of oil. Okay, so this is a disaster for the world. But it's not. It's just much more than energy needs. Okay, so this, because Iran is constraining movement in the Strait of Hormuz, we're seeing 7 major shortages. Okay, so yes, we know oil and LNG are being stopped. Okay, but actually the problem is much worse, because look at phosphate, ammonium, sulfur, urea. This is food production, primarily used for fertilizer. In other words, if this war persists, not only will countries run out of energy, they'll also run out of food. Okay, also look at this, helium and sulfur.
So there could be so much repercussions to this entire war that we're not really truly ready for. And I think a lot of Americans miss this point because the war never happens in their country. The wars are never in the beautiful, well-kept countries. The wars are always in the third world countries, far away. You're so far away from the action, you're just watching it on television. And so you're never really able to understand the impact of it. Will America go without energy and without food? Most likely not. And if it does, it won't be to the severity that it will be in a third world country.
Are used for what? They're used for semiconductors, the production of semiconductors. You use helium and sulfuric acid in the production of semiconductors, which leads to AI, okay? So in other words, this war in the Middle East, it's impacting everything in the modern economy, okay? If this war continues, the global economy could collapse. But again, we're making the assumption that Donald Trump is a genius and this is all part of his big plan, okay? So what is his plan? All right, so, okay, we know that there's a lot of oil in the Middle East, okay? But you know, oil is not as rare as people think it is. There's also a lot of oil in Canada. Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves, okay? Russia also has a lot of oil. So in other words, if the Strait of Hormuz is closed, if this war in the GCC continues, it doesn't mean the world no longer has oil. All it means is the world is now much more dependent on North America and Russia for oil. And so the global economy now shifts over to North America and to Russia, okay? So in other words, the United States starts a stupid war in the GCC in the Middle East. It can't possibly win, but it still benefits because now the world is much more dependent on North America, okay? Why is Venezuela important? Because
now, if you can sit there and say to yourself that truly that Trump thought this far ahead, come on, man. Let's be honest, guys.
America just took over Venezuela in January, okay? And look, Canada has a lot of oil, and Trump is threatening to take over Canada, okay? So now let's look at who needs the oil. Well, this map tells you that if you're in the red, you consume more oil than you export. And who are these countries? Well, they're Europe, okay? And they are East Asia, as well as Australia, okay? So yes, I understand Donald Trump's an idiot. Yes, I understand that he's gonna lose this war in the Middle East. Yes, I understand he's gonna destroy the global economy, but for some strange reason, he benefits, and the United States benefits, because now Europe and China, Japan, Australia, they're much more dependent on North America for resources, for food.
The major world powers end up right back in America's pocket. So this could possibly be the collapse of Western civilization or the prolonging of it.
Food for energy, okay? All right, food, okay? So nitrogen is important for fertilizers, okay? You need nitrogen for fertilizers. And as you can, and what this map tells you is that if you are in the blue or the light blue, it means you produce more nitrogen than you need, so you export it. If you are not in the blue, then you're kind of screwed, okay? So basically, this area especially, this area, okay? Europe is some parts of Europe, okay? So now they need more nitrogen. And again, before they were getting a lot of nitrogen, ammonia, from the Middle East. And now, where are they forced to get the nitrogen? From here and from here, okay? So again, yes, I know Donald Trump's losing this war in the Middle East, but in the long term, America stands to benefit. The last thing I want to look at is water, okay? Water is important because water tells us which areas are the most stable. Basically, if you have a lot of water, you're less prone to conflict. But if you don't have that much water, then you're prone to conflict, okay? So we look at, so if you're in the dark blue, you're good, okay? Nothing to worry about. If you are in the light blue, you are in a lot of trouble, okay? So if we look at this area, North America, pretty stable because lots and lots of fresh water, okay? If you look at Russia, pretty stable, lots and lots of fresh water. But if you're Africa, you're in a lot of trouble. If you're Europe, you're in a lot of trouble. If you are Middle East, you're in a lot of trouble. If you are Southeast Asia, you are not much trouble, but you are in some trouble, okay? So we already see how this map tells us where in the future, basically Russia and the United States, North America, are the most stable parts of the world with the most resources. And therefore, they are the most resilient, the most stable, okay? But if you go to Africa, Europe, Middle East, Southeast Asia, these are points of conflict in the world. So we can expect these places to become much more unstable over time. So in other words, all the United States and Russia have to do is maintain stability and then export resources to these places. And guess what? And then they make a lot of money for themselves, okay? So again, I know
this is the perfect example of somebody who fails upwards, man. Like Donald Trump, this whole thing is supposed to be like they don't have enough resources, they don't have what it takes to actually win the war, but yet somehow throughout all of this, it would still benefit the Americans. Oh, you guys, what can we say and what can we do? Hmm? Oh, I wasn't even recording that. Oh my God. Oh my God. I gotta download this stream after. All right, let's get to the next video.